A couple weekends ago, at the beginning of March 2024, I participated in the Mason Valley Steel Hunter match in Julian, California. It was the second NRL Hunter match I ever shot, the first being the Ghost Hunter match in Paulden of January of this year, 2024. It's been a couple weeks, and I've had time to contemplate my performance, what I felt I did well, what I feel still needs to be improved upon, and my overall thoughts of that match. But let's go ahead and dive right into it. The Mason Valley Steel Hunter match is located it takes place in the Mason Valley Ranch in Julian, California. It's kind of smack dab in between like Julian and Borrego Springs, and it's kind of in a canyon, like it's like against a canyon, flush against a canyon, kind of like how we are at the West End Gun Club where I'm recording this footage. And it's notoriously known for being a very difficult match in the past few years when it's first started. I've heard lots of stories about how the stages are very difficult, especially when it comes to target location. And compared to other matches, a lot of people have told me that's pretty much one of the more difficult ones to go to. And so when I walked into that, I was thinking, man, this is going to be pretty rough. But overall, I felt the course of fire was not too difficult. That is to say, I honestly did not miss many targets compared to my first NRL Hunter match. Like I was able to locate all but 4.5, but we'll talk about the details on that in a few moments. But the targets I missed were in 4 target arrays, 4 targets, 1 position. And so I felt really good about, finding targets. And so I don't know if it's chalk it up to experience, but I felt it wasn't too bad. And so in my opinion, the course fire wasn't too difficult. However, the weather conditions were absolutely horrendous. It's, as I mentioned earlier, it was smack dab in the canyon, and that weekend it was raining in Southern California. But the way it works is, I guess, where that ranch is located, the canyons are so high up that the weather doesn't really go past it. So it's got this weird condition in that it almost turns to a bowl. And so, it was windy on day 1. 40-mile-an-hour gusts, really hard, and then pretty much anywhere from 15 to 25 throughout the day. And it was raining off and on because the storm that was happening was getting kind of stopped by the canyon, but then once the winds picked up, it blew it over the top, and then you would get the rain. And so it would rain off and on. Day 2 wasn't so bad. It was like maybe half the wind, so anywhere from like 5 to 15 mile an hour, which isn't too terrible. But it was still raining off and on because of the storm. But overall, I felt the conditions weren't too terrible in terms of me making hits. It's just more of comfortability and finding targets, because the rain, the variable sunshine caused me to have difficulty finding targets. It slowed me down, and also the contrast of targets, because a lot of the steel against the desert terrain, very difficult to see. And that's kind of adds to that difficulty of the venue. What am I missing here? The terrain. I mentioned the terrain. It's desert. Basically, it's inland San Diego County, kind of, way east of the coastline. So it is pretty much desert. And the terrain is kind of bad because we're walking from stage to stage. And I actually tore up my pants, but that was due to barbed wire, because there was a barbed wire somewhere on a fence line that was on the ground. I missed it and I just clipped it. But when you're walking, like a lot of people, we were scratching up our hands. Everyone was cutting up their hands because we just didn't see brush, and you're just not thinking about walking next to this bush. And there's lots of thorns on it. And I cut my finger open on one stage. I think I cut my hands like on the back sides, just walking past, brush. And so probably want to wear gloves to this match if you ever go, at the very least between stages, if not during your stage. So terrain, a little bit more difficult because it's not really like it's not like a developed area. We're all around inside the ranch in terms of, it's just like a lot of natural growth. As far as a change I made that worked well is my tripod. And so I have my bag here, and I have it on this mat because it actually is raining here right now. I didn't think it was going to be raining, but there's a lot of precipitation, which is kind of fitting considering it was raining at the Mason Valley Steel Hunter match. But as you can see on my pack here, I have this recently acquired tripod. This is the Really Right Stuff TVC 22i compact. I actually have my regular size TVC 22i holding this camera that I'm pointing at. But this is the new tripod that I got, which is basically inverted tripod. Let me go into my vehicle and grab my other primary tripod. This is the TFC T34 with the Anvil 30 head. This is what I used at the Mason Valley Ghost Hunter. Sorry, the Ghost Hunter match in Paulden. So I used this in my first NRL Hunter match. It's got 3 locks, 4 segments, right? And so, you know, if you know anything about tripods, you have 3 twist locks and you have to run them all out to get whatever height you want. And so this, I found that this is slow. It's slow to do in a field match under time. And I felt that I think the inverted tripod with only a single lock would be ideal. And so this is what I acquired, and that's it, just a single lock. This is the compact version of the TVC 22i, so it doesn't go very tall. I'm like 5'4", and so at full height, even I can't even glass standing, just regularly. I probably need a tack table and a bag, but it is relatively short. So, but the reason why I wanted to go this is because I didn't really need to shoot anything standing, and I can still shoot standing if I needed to. I mean, I can just kind of widen my base, and I can kind of hunch over, and I can shoot standing if I need to. But taller people may not appreciate this, depending on how you're going to use it. But for NRL Hunter, I felt that this is ideal because one twist lock, it's not too big. It still fits on my pack relatively easily in terms of how it stows on the pack. And you can see here it's not too tall. It is still kind of tall. My full-size TVC 22i would be way high, and it would be like another foot, I would say 10 inches or a foot. So this isn't too unwieldy or bulky, so that's why I appreciate this. But overall, let's get into the usage. Basically, I just take it off my pack, and I can either plop it down because it's tall enough to kneel in glass, or I can just, if I need to do it from a kind of high kneeling or standing position, I can just immediately just 3 twists, 3 untwists, and 3 twists to lock, and I'm good to go. So I did appreciate this. I did a lot of triple sky pods. If you watch my match footage in the vlog, I use a triple sky pod and then use this for rear support. As far as what I changed though, you notice on this tripod, I am running the leveling base. This is the TA, sorry, I don't remember all the really rest off model numbers, but this is like the TA2USC, I think. This is a leveling base. You only got 15 degrees down, 50 degrees up from level, so you got 30 degrees like of movement, which is enough for what I need to do with it, but I decided to go leveling base as opposed to the Anvil 30 head or a ball head, and I decided to clamp directly into the tripod with my binos. So I put I'm able to get my Really Right Stuff Cinch LR hooked up to the EL Range TAs, and I clamped in. And I felt this was faster than having to get my bag up, have the tack table on here, then get my bag up on here, and then start glassing. I felt this was faster. Boom. And if I wanted to, I can keep it clamped on directly and just keep it on my pack, but I opted to just keep it on my bino harness. And I felt this was more efficient for me. I liked it. And I could just leave my binos on the tripod while I shoot. However, that's a kind of a bad thing because it was windy, and there were times when you leave it on there, your tripod could blow over. So I was getting to the habit of just taking my binos immediately off and just leaving my tripod standing, or if I need to grab it for rear support, I would just go run and grab it during the stage. However, one time I did leave it and it did get blown over, and fortunately for me, it just landed to some soft dirt and nothing happened, so my binos are fine. But it's something you have to think about if you're going to clamp directly in. I know there's horror stories of people dropping binos and breaking some expensive glass, and so something to think about. I think this is, for me, this is ideal. However, just have to be cognizant. Hey, run through your cadence. Okay, I'm going to get to the stage, deploy tripod, pull binos out of harness, clamp in, glass, find targets, note everything, and then remove it and either set it on the ground or just put it in my bino harness. That's, you just got to remember to do before you jump to your gun. But this worked for me, and I feel I'm going to stick to the clamping method. I know the tack table, I did keep my tack table in my bag, or my pack, in the event that I needed to get to it. And sorry, Did I leave it here? Yeah, it's right here. So if I needed to, I can just put my tack table on and use my bag. And then if I needed to, I can just go ahead and glass off a bag if I wanted to, and shoot off the bag if I wanted to. But I left it. I'm going to clamp in. I think that clamping in for me is just more effective, more efficient. I just like the way it feels. So that was a change I made, and with regards to the tripod and my method of deploying the tripod. So sorry, try to figure that out here, and then let's move this out of the way. Grab my notes here. So I talked about clamping in versus the bag and tack table. Another change that I made, which I felt was the way to go, is the arm board. So just kind of reaching my bag here. I'm not sure if you can see this on camera. I don't have the camera adjusted well. So I have my rifle in the Jeep. I don't feel like busting it out right now. But if you know that, if you watch my vlogs and see my NRL 22 stuff, I run this Coltac cheat sheet, which is basically this little deal that goes around your scope, and it has hook and loop. It has loop here, and you have hook on these backside of these vinyl cards. Right on the vinyl cards, stick it on this deal here that's on your scope, and you have your dope on your scope, and you can just, you're behind your scope, you can see it on the side, and, works well. If you saw my last after action report about the NRL Hunter match at Paulden, this wasn't ideal. I'm writing on a vinyl card. When it rains, it wipes it off, and it's not enough room really for me to write. I feel like I'm comfortable writing like distance and dope, or distance and adjustment in mils on here. So it gets kind of unwieldy to use. So I saw another guy at the Ghost Hunter match, and he was using a arm board, which I had, but he's using painter's tape. So he used painter's tape and just wrote on the painter's tape from stage to stage, tore it off, peeled it off, put a new one on there. And I ended up doing that, and I felt this worked out well. So basically just arm board. I'm just going to slap this on here. Man, that's tight. Down there. Okay, so I have my arm board here, and then I'll just either have it on here on the side, and I have my painter's tape just hooked up to my pack here. And then I would just peel off new sections after every stage, write down my stuff, my dope during the stage, I'm glassing, and then shoot, reference that, and good to go. Next stage, either peel this off or just put another piece of tape over that, and then go at it again. And what I would do is on this tape is I would write, I don't know if you can read it here. Oh, my camera there. I would put like the placard identifier, because there's placards that identify the first target, whether it's a letter or a number. So here, I think I crossed it out, here's one. Here's this S. So I had S, and I just put that there, and then the target like shapes or whatever, and this was rabbits, and then how many there were, it's like 2, and then whatever. And this one was S, and then I think it was a Yeti or Sasquatch, and then that was it. So this works for me. I liked it. I felt it is the way to go. So I'm going to use arm board with painter's tape, and I think that's ideal. And it works in the rain because you just write with a ballpoint pen and you're good to go. Fast and effective, and you can take a lot of notes. And also, what I need to do a better job is taking notes between stages. I should have wrote this stuff down in my notepad. I have a notepad behind my vinyl harness, or if anything, I should just keep these tapes and just put them somewhere so I can just refer to them later. Although that's going to be a little difficult because all these strips of tape might end up getting crumpled up or lost, or in a manner in which I can't even reconstitute the data off of it. So I should probably just use a notebook or notepad. Okay, I said I was able to find targets for the most part. So I put down, based on the match results, kind of how I shot here. And I noted here that on X's, sorry. So 5 stages, I could not have found a target. And they were all 4x1s except 1. So 4 of the stages were a 4 target, 1 position stage. And out of those, I would find 3 but not a 4th target. And so whether it's the last, the 2nd or 3rd or whatever, I was able to always find the first one, obviously, because of the placards marking it. But I missed 1 target in 4 different 4x1s. And then the half that I mentioned earlier, I missed half a target. It was a 2x2. and it was a stage with these like werewolf thing shaped deals, and I didn't know what I was looking for because the shape looked kind of odd. I was able to find the first one, but I couldn't find the second one. 2 minutes had gone by, and I said, you know what, I got to take a shot here. I can't miss points here. So what my idea was, I found the first target, 2 minutes left. Let's go ahead and engage the target from the first position, yell out skip, go to my second position, engage the target again, because you have to shoot 2 by 2, 2 targets, 2 positions. So switch to the second position, shoot that first target again, then with the remaining time, try to get on glass and look for it. And so that's what I did. Went down in position, shot target 1, yelled out, hey, I'm skipping target 2, and I switched to the second position, shot target 1, made a hit. So it was, first hit engagements on each position for target 1. Then I tried to find target 2 in the last minute I had left. So I got behind the gun, just kind of scanned the area, and I ran back to my tripod really quick to look at the glass. And eventually I was able to find it with maybe 20 or 15 seconds left. So I got down on the gun, was trying to, get on the target with a kind of a dope on there. And then I think I broke one shot off and I missed it, but I didn't have time to make a good stable shot with the wind that was happening at the time, which is 25 mile an hour. So interesting way of approaching that kind of stage where you can't find a target, but that's probably an ideal way to go. But all in all, I felt good about my ability to find targets. I think the ones I couldn't find, they were pointed out to me later. They were like rusty steel on desert backdrop. So it's brown with no contrast. So I'm not sure how you're supposed to, I need to, I guess, train myself better to identify that kind of shape when I'm looking in the target area and scanning behind glass. Not much else to say there, but I think that's just something I have to work on. But I think the main thing that I felt that I need to work on is my target point of reference. So I was able to find targets for the most part. However, once I got behind the gun, I lost the target. And so your perspective changes quite a bit when you glass and get down on the ground or whatever your firing position may be. And then if you said, hey, that target's next to this bush, your perspective of that bush is completely changed. Or a lot of times, okay, I think I remember where it's at. Then I get down to position and I just go blank and I just lost it and I can't find the target again. So I'm not sure what to make of that and how I'm going to approach that. I don't know how to practice that, to be honest. I think the only thing I can do is probably, I thought about some wild things like getting a rifle scope, just a rifle scope by itself, grab my binos and one day just go to a field area, get behind glass, okay, mark an area with my glass and get behind the rifle scope somewhere else and try to find it quickly behind the scope. Stuff like that, I think maybe I'll try to do. Figuring out better ways to just create that point of reference that, hey, I know the target's in that spot, in that cut next to a rock, and then make sure I identify my general direction. And when I get in position, I can repeat that even though I'm changing my perspective, getting back on target. So something I need to work on. But we'll see how we can do that. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything else. Not much else to say as far as the match. Nothing really changed in my gear. I did have to use my boo-boo kit, my first aid, because I said earlier I cut my hand on a stage. It was bleeding all over my pack. I still have blood on my backpack here. I was wondering why I had blood on my backpack coming off the stage, and I realized I cut my arm, or my hand rather. But I think another huge thing I want to mention is just a shot timer. This countdown, sorry, not a shot timer, but a countdown timer. It's a talking timer. These are very popular. I'll say very popular, but I've seen quite a few of these at the NRL Hunter matches. It's just this Chinese made, I don't know, some random brand name that they came up with called Spur Scientific, but it talks to you. And so I have it set for 4 minutes, but when you hit the timer to start, it will tell you at 3 minutes, you have 3 minutes left, and at 2 minutes, 2 minutes left, at 1 minute, 1 minute left. Then every 10 seconds after 60 seconds, it's 50, 40, 30, 20, and I think it starts counting down around at 15, then it goes 15, then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's very handy to have because you need some way to time yourself, and I think this is probably the ideal way to go is something like this, as opposed to a stopwatch where you have to refer to it. I feel it's nice just not have to be on thinking about it or have to look at something. Although it might be easier, maybe it'll be easy to just have a stopwatch plaster to your arm board, that might work. I don't know. But I like this, and it talks to you, and it's just nice to know without having to change your position or whatever. This will tell you where you're at. So I have it hooked up my over-the-ear hearing protection, and it's just right there. And so I just hit the button. Then I can hear it say 3 minutes. And then at 2 minutes, I know, hey, I'm still on glass. I got to get on my gun. So I like this. I bought a second one. I'm going to try to come up with a way to probably put on my arm board instead of my hearing protection. Because the reason I have it on my hearing protection, because one, it stays out of the way. But the bad thing about it is when I want to hit start, like you kind of have to feel for it and hope that you're hitting the right button. It's like in the bottom. When you're looking at it face on, it's going to be the bottom right. So I have to like kind of position my hand here and okay, I'm going to hit that button. And then sometimes I forget, did I reset it? So I have to like take it off my, before, if I'm getting in the staging area, I have to take it off my head. And so I kind of want to have it somewhere where I can see it though, so I can easily manipulate it if I need to. But my concern is if I put it on my arm, I'm going to actually bump it, hit a button, because they're very sensitive, because you can just easily hit them, that you might change something. So I just like having it on my head just because it's out of the way, but at the same time, it's not easily visible, so to manipulate the buttons. But I bought a second one. We'll figure something out. At SHOT Show, which I haven't written an article yet, but MDT has a stage timer that's going to go on a gun, and I want to get one, and I felt, hey, this is going to be great for NRL Hunter, but at the same time, I think it's not, after I thought about it, it's not going to be good because it's going to be on my rifle. So you're not going to be seeing your rifle, and it doesn't talk to you. And I don't know if it gives you audible stuff, but it's better to have something that tells you, hey, it's 2 minutes versus a timer that's on your rifle that's going to be far away from you, potentially, during the glassing part of your stage. So I think this is the way to go. People have been asking about it. I posted a link on my vlogs episodes about this. I think it's like $40, $30 or $40, but definitely handy. And then that's kind of it for basically the gear and kind of the methodologies. I felt like overall the adjustments I made since the Paulden Ghost Hunter match worked well. I still need to work on some of my techniques, but other than that, I think I did a good job, or well enough job, for my second time out. But we'll go to my mock stage here, and we'll just talk about a couple of procedural things that I need to work on as well before we wind up this after action report. I set up a mock stage to demonstrate what I'm trying to convey here. It consists of this sighting pin, or this stake that they call the sighting pin, which is where you're going to glass from to look at your targets. Behind me I have a blue flag. I don't know if you can see that, but that's kind of going to be your firing point. And then the two red flags, left and right, are going to be your lateral limits for your glass. So when you run up to a stage, you're going to set up your glass. You're going to glass from the sighting pin because you're supposed to be able to see all the targets of this stage between the sighting flags. That's your left lateral limit, that's your right lateral limit, and you're supposed to be able to see it from this sight line here. So one weird thing I want to mention in this last match is one stage you could not see the target from the top of the sighting pin. You had to be above the sighting pin, like you had to be standing full standing height. And even for me, full standing, like I can just see it over this bush or this foliage. It was my understanding that you're supposed to be able to put your glass sight line exactly at the top of the sighting pin in order to see the target, and that was incorrect. I think that statement was asked, or that question was asked, or it was stated that you will be able to see all targets from the top of the sighting pin. I think they need to rephrase that. I have to go look at my footage if I even recorded it, but if they said off the top of the sighting pin, that's incorrect. If they should say you should be able to see all targets from the spot of the sighting pin, whether above or below this top of this pin. I think that should be a clear statement. Apparently I misinterpreted that, but just so anyone else who goes to a match, you're likely that it may not hold true. Generally speaking, yeah, you should be able to see it, but they may play a trick on you where that you have to be standing, full standing at that sighting pin point to see the target. So I spent like a solid 2 minutes just trying to figure it out, and then I realized, hey, there's the target. So my mistake, misinterpretation of the rules. But one other thing I'll mention with this setup of this mock stage is, so once you get your glass, right, depending on what the stage is going to be, it could be, 1 target, 4 positions, 2 targets, 2 positions, or 4 targets, 1 position, they're going to tell you you have to be within arm's length or a foot away from this blue flag or your point, the marked shooting position. Now, if you have 4 positions, what are you doing here, right? You can move, like if that's my firing area, I can move left to right, front and back, whatever. However, in the Mason Valley match, they give you a box. They give you like maybe a 3x3 or 4x4, 4 foot by 4 foot box to play in. So it gives you a lot of leeway, right? I think my biggest problem is I actually would move far. Like they said, you only need to move, you need to break your position, move a foot or 2 feet and you're done, right? I think, but in this match, they specifically say move a foot from your previous position. I got into this habit of moving way far position. Like, why do that, right? I'm wasting time and putting extra effort when I don't need to move so far to make my 2nd, 3rd, or 4th position. So that's mistake 1. Mistake 2, I need to stop moving left to right. The reason why is when you move left to right, you're changing your perspective. I should just move front to back, but I don't know why I blank out and forget to do it, but I'll shoot, one position, move left, or move right, or the opposite, start right and move left, and left. It's better, in my opinion, to go ahead and just start one and move forward or backward a foot or 2 to break a position, because you're going to continue your perspective on the same point of view. Because if you start moving left to right, then you're changing the perspective. It's just better to move forward and backwards. That's just my thought process. I don't know if people feel the same way, but I really need to stick to that mantra. And then I think the one other item that I was only made aware of, like on day 2, is you can repeat positions. So if you have a one target 4 position, a lot of times you have difficulty. Okay, what am I going to do, right? So you're constantly just moving around trying to find positions that are unique when you technically don't have to. So in one of the stages, I just ended up going, shot 1 position, shot 2nd position, went back to the 1st, that's my 3rd position, and 4th. So kind of simplify things. Obviously, in other stages, those 4 positions may end up being like rocks and stuff, and so that kind of hinders what you can do. But if you can repeat, you're great. I think I've been told that the ability to repeat positions in a 4-position stage will vary from match to match. So you do have to ask that. But I know, hey, we should ask that question on, morning of day 1 during the briefing. But something to be aware of as far as NRL Hunter. But yeah, that's just a few things I want to mention through this mock stage that I set up. That is essentially my after-action report for the Mason Valley Steel Hunter NRL Hunter match in the 2024 season. As I said earlier, I felt I made some good improvements. However, I didn't perform as well as I wanted to. Obviously, we want to perform quite well. Points-wise, it doesn't look all that great, but from placement compared to everyone else, mid-pack. I had 5 zeros or 5 stages where I had a 0. 1 was the first stage of the match, so I was trying to getting some inconsistencies or uncertainties out of my head on that first stage. And then the other 4 stages, all on day 1, just to point that out, all my zeros on day 1. I think a couple were mental mistakes, and all 4 were mental mistakes, I would say. So I think it's just working that stuff out and reducing my zeros. Obviously, is going to be the way to go. In my head, I was calculating if I had averaged like 4.5 points per stage. If you say 5 stages where I got a 0, you replace those with 4.5 points. That would have been a good 22.5 points that I would have gotten. So 22, 23 points extra on my score, which would put me in a respectable score. So that's kind of what I probably need to approach it. Obviously, the mentality is do the best you can. You should always go for a clean. But at the same time, you have to increase your averages, right? That's how I approached service rifle. When I used to compete in service rifle matches, it was all about your averages, right? You always want to shoot as best as you can. You want to shoot for a 200 on every stage, right? 200 points. You want to get it clean. But while that's good, you have to also focus on your averages. Are your averages improving from match to match? Otherwise, if you're not, then you're not improving and you're not doing well, then you need to figure out why your averages aren't improving. So that's kind of what I want to do, is increase my averages. So I'm going to take note of that and start increasing my averages on the next NRL Hunter match. That's kind of my goal. Like, my goal is, one, to shoot cleans, but two, increase your averages. And that's where you can, once you see your averages improve, then you know you're making progress. Everything else seems to be working out fine. Really right stuff. Really liking this tripod for NRL Hunter. Already got some scratches on it. Already beat it up on the one time out. I did get these leggings, if you're wondering about why these have these gray Cordura things on them. This is the Coltac tripod leggings version 2. This is the newest iteration. I actually had these custom made. I had to get these of a different length because they didn't make them the same length as this segment. So I measured it and said, hey, can you make it in this length? I can't remember what it is. It's like 22 inches or something, 24. I'll have to look it up. But Coltac made them for me, got them out to me before the match, and I ran these, and it's a nice way to just kind of protect your tripod a little bit and gives you some grip. And then I think I already bled on these things, so I got some blood on them. But overall, like this really right stuff TVZ22i compact. And the changes I made, obviously, I said earlier, clipping in with the binos works for me. But again, just got to be aware, if you're going to clip in, take them off the tripod, because if you leave them unattended during the stage while you're shooting and it's windy, it blows your tripod over and you break your binos, you're going to have a bad day. So that's just something to be aware of. Anyway, that's it for my after action report. If you want to see some footage of that match, definitely check out that vlog, and I'll post the link to that range vlog video in the video description so you can check that out. I don't know if I'm going to shoot another NRL Hunter match this season. I want to shoot more, but travel is going to be difficult, and I just can't do it at this point in time. So if anything, I'll try to make that Arbuckle match, but that's only 2 weeks away, and I don't know if I can still register, but I just don't know if I can make the time for it. But I'll try to make my own opportunities to practice on my own time the various things I need to improve upon that I mentioned earlier, from like target reference points, target point of reference, just establishing positions on the fly, that sort of thing. And hopefully the next NRL Hunter match, I can continue to improve and get a better score. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stick around and check out my other videos.